Okay. Um, you may recall that we have talked sort of at length about thrust, lift. I want to talk a little bit about drag and the importance of drag on a kite. Here is a typical kite, let's say. Um, it's got the frame here. Here is this is going to be the bridle, let's say, and then here's the line. Um, Get a little line and the bridle. Um, and this kite, I'm going to put a tail on. I don't know how long it is, but I'm going to put a little few other things on this tail to give it a little more drag. So, um, as the wind is blowing, I'll continue to use the same color here for wind. As the wind is blowing, and let's do like a wind is blowing by the kite. As that wind blows by the kite is itself is creating drag. The drag will be from the kite spread out, pushing through the wind. It's making it harder for the wind to go where it's going, which means it's making it harder for the kite to go where it's going. So it's creating a friction of sorts with the wind. Um, the uh, the the kite as it if we have the kite straight up and down, it's creating more friction or more of a drag, but it's also creating more lift. Remember, and if like there's a high wind and you don't want that much drag, you put it down here so you're not creating as much drag and you're not creating as much lift. You're still creating lift because the wind is going fast, but you're lowering the drag so the kite can cut through there easier and not get damaged. The other area that creates drag is this right here, the tail of the kite. And what the tail of the kite does is, if you think about it, all of this drag right here is slowing down the air. So effectively, it's sort of speeding up the kite in that direction. So it's pulling the kite that way. So if that makes sense. So if if I was think about it this way, if I had a boat that I was trying to go upriver with. So the river's pulling me backwards. And I was having trouble being able to row it and keep it going straight. Think about what would happen if I took, say, a rope with a couple of buoys or bottles or something like that that I had that floated, and I threw the rope out the back of the boat. That would create a situation where those things would be being pulled by the water, and the water would be accelerating them away from the boat, but the boat's still going against the water. So in this case, the kite is going against the wind. It's being held there or pulled there by the tension on the line. Like I'm pulling the line and I'm holding it. So it's going against the wind, but the drag off of the tail is pulling it with the wind, which means that what's going to happen is if the wind is going this way and the tail's going to be the wind's going this way, the tail's going to be hanging out that way and being pulled that way, which means that the tail's going to accelerate that way. The kite is going to stay pointed into the wind, right? The kite, it's going to automatically point the kite directly into the wind. The same thing is true with the fins on a rocket. They create the drag, the rocket's pushing up. Instead of it going all crazy, as long as we have drag at the bottom, it stays pointed in the right direction. The same thing is true with, uh, you can do this in many ways. One of the things I thought about was, what if you had a race where there were two people on your team that one of them had to finish before the other one, but both of them were blindfolded, so they didn't know who was ahead of the other one? What would you do? Well, one of the things you could do is like the one of them you could uh, make carry something heavy or something that would cause drag or that they would have to pull. And so one of them will be out front and the other one will be pulling from behind. That's the drag, right? That's the drag of the it keeps you pointed in the right direction and keeps the one you want out front. So it keeps the front of the kite pointed into the wind and it keeps the back of the kite hanging back that way. So the drag on this tail can be absolutely essential and keep control of the kite. That's the important part is it keeps the kite under control, keeps the kite pointed into the wind. Now, how long should this tail be? The general rule of thumb is that the tail should be 8 times the height of the kite. But you don't just have to use a tail. You can do, like I said, the person can drag something. You could do what's essentially an air bucket, a drogue. You can use a loop that has fabric on it or plastic on it that has holes in it that will actually spin. You know, can do all kinds of like nifty, cool looking things. They don't have to be that long and can create a lot of drag that keep the kite pointed in the right direction. So the drag is important to keep the kite pointed in the right direction. The same is true with aircraft, with anything that moves through the water or through the air, through any kind of liquid or gas, has to have that more drag in the back, no drag in the front so that it stays pointed in the right direction. The drag keeps it from veering off different ways and getting all loop-de-looped. And if you see a kite that's like all going all over crazy, it probably doesn't have it doesn't have a drag, some kind of a drag apparatus on it, like it doesn't have a tail, or it has one that's too short or too small, or it's not working effectively like it's supposed to. So that's sort of the idea there. We need to have First of all, we need to have drag on the kite in order to control it. Secondly, the kite itself creates drag. That drag is commensurate with the angle of attack that we use on the kite. But you have to like play out the angle of attack with like the speed of the wind and the lift there. You have to kind of even all those things out. So they have to kind of make sure all of that works. So all of that comes together and enables us to fly a kite in a manner that is uh, uh, like safe, that is pointed in the right direction, is secure, and is not uncontrolled. It's a controlled flight that way.